Right after giving birth, my husband signed a birth certificate with a name I never agreed to. The hospital room was thick with the sterile tang of bleach and the faint sweetness of my wilting lilies. My body ached, bruised and drained from 18 hours of labor, but I couldn't stop gazing at my daughter, her tiny lips twitching in sleep. She was perfect, fragile, mine. Then Caleb strode in, clutching a clipboard, his jaw tight like he was bracing for a fight. I assumed it was paperwork for my release. Instead, he thrust a birth certificate into my hands, his eyes flicking away. "All set," he muttered, as if he'd just ordered takeout. I scanned the document, expecting to see Lydia, the name we'd chosen after weeks of late-night talks, a nod to my late aunt. Instead, it read, Miriam Faye Thornton. My heart lurched. Miriam was his mother's name, a woman who'd once sneered that I wasn't family material. Faye? We'd never even mentioned it. I stared at Caleb, my voice barely steady. "Caleb, what the hell? We agreed on Lydia." He shrugged, leaning against the wall. "Miriam fits her. It's official now. Nora. Let it go." Let it go? I'd just birthed our child, every muscle screaming, and he'd overwritten my choice like it was nothing. My hands trembled, gripping the paper so hard it creased. I wanted to shout, to tear the certificate apart, but the nurse's footsteps echoed outside, and my daughter's soft breaths held me back. I set the paper down, my fingers ice cold, and forced a slow breath. "It's done," he said, already scrolling through his phone, dismissing me. The betrayal cut deeper than the name. It was the secrecy, the arrogance. Like my voice didn't matter. I'd spent months nurturing her, dreaming of her as Lydia, while Caleb nodded along, only to ambush me when I was weakest. I thought of every time I'd bitten my tongue, when he picked our apartment, controlled our savings to avoid his temper. But this was my daughter, not his property. I could have screamed, demanded answers, but exhaustion pinned me to the bed. Still, my mind raced. Why Miriam? Why now? His mother's smug face flashed in my head, her voice dripping with judgment. Was this her idea or his? I glanced at my daughter. Her tiny fist clenched like she was already fighting. She deserved a mother who stood her ground, not one who shrank to keep peace. Caleb mumbled something about grabbing a soda and left, his absence sharpening the air. I reached for the certificate again, tracing the name, Miriam. It wasn't just wrong, it was a theft. My passivity cracked, a spark of defiance flaring. I didn't know how, but I'd fight this. For her, for me. I whispered to my daughter, "You're Lydia to me." And the words felt like a vow. The hospital discharged me 2 days later, but the weight of Caleb's betrayal clung heavier than the postpartum pain. At home, our small apartment felt like a cage. Every corner held reminders of the life I'd thought we were building. Lydia, I refused to call her Miriam, slept in her crib, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. I wanted to confront Caleb, to demand why he'd gone behind my back. But every time I opened my mouth, my throat closed. I was terrified of his dismissal, of hearing "it's just a name" again. So I stayed quiet, hating myself for it. Caleb acted like nothing was wrong. He'd coo at Lydia, change her diapers, and then disappear to work late, leaving me with bottles and exhaustion. I'd catch him texting, his face lit by the screen, and wonder if he was telling his mother how he'd won. Miriam's name on the birth certificate wasn't just a choice. It was a claim, a line drawn between me and my daughter. I'd trace Lydia's face at night, whispering her real name, as if saying it enough could erase the paper. The silence was suffocating, but I couldn't break it. I'd always avoided fights with Caleb. His sharp tongue could cut deeper than any argument was worth. Instead, I obsessed over the certificate, hiding it in a drawer like a guilty secret. I Googled how to change a baby's name in Ohio, but the process was a maze. Petitions, court hearings, fees we couldn't afford. Caleb's signature was law now, and I felt like a ghost in my own life. One night, while Caleb was out, I sat on the couch, Lydia asleep on my chest. The TV droned, but my mind churned. Why hadn't he warned me? Had he planned this during every name debate? Nodding while plotting? The questions gnawed, but so did my shame. I'd let him control so much. Our money, our plans, because fighting felt pointless. Now, my daughter's identity was at stake, and I was still frozen. Then, a small shift. I found a forum online, a group of mothers sharing stories of overbearing in-laws and spineless husbands. One post caught my eye, a woman whose husband had forged her signature on a loan. The replies were fierce: legal advice, support, stories of reclaiming power. I didn't post, but I read until dawn, my heart racing. These women weren't just venting, they were fighting. For the first time, I wondered if I could too. Caleb came home at 2 a.m., smelling faintly of beer. He didn't notice my red eyes or the laptop still open. "You okay?" he asked, half-hearted, already heading to bed. I nodded. My voice locked away, but inside something stirred. A plan, vague but growing. I didn't know how to confront him yet, or if I could. But I knew I needed answers, and I couldn't keep swallowing my anger. Lydia deserved better. I deserved better. I couldn't keep drifting in silence. Lydia's name, my promise to her, pushed me to act. The forum had lit a spark, but I needed more than strangers' advice. I started small, digging for answers while Caleb was at work. His laptop was password protected, but his desk wasn't in a drawer beneath bills and junk. I found a folded note in his handwriting. "Miriam insists, don't back down." My blood ran cold. His mother wasn't just a shadow in this. She was orchestrating it. The note hinted at a deeper plan, not just a name, but I couldn't decipher what. I needed help. My coworker Sadie, a single mom who'd fought her ex in court, had a no-nonsense edge I trusted. Over coffee, I spilled everything. Lydia's name, Caleb's betrayal, the note. Sadie's eyes narrowed. "He's hiding something. Check his email and get a lawyer." She gave me the number of her attorney, a woman who handled family disputes. I hesitated. Legal action felt like a cliff, but Sadie's certainty steadied me. She became my anchor, my key ally. Back home, I got reckless. Caleb had left his phone charging, unlocked. Heart pounding. I scrolled through his texts. A thread with his mother, Miriam, was buried in his history. She'll get over it. Miriam wrote, "Evelyn's trust needs her name." Evelyn? I froze. Evelyn was Caleb's late grandmother, not Miriam. The name wasn't about his mother. It was tied to a trust fund, one Caleb had never mentioned. Messages showed Miriam pushing Caleb to secure it by naming our daughter after Evelyn, implying it was for the family. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was financial. I felt sick. Caleb hadn't just stolen Lydia's name, he'd traded it for money. My justice-driven heart screamed to confront him, but I needed leverage. I screenshotted the texts and emailed them to myself, hands shaking. The lawyer, Ms. Torres, agreed to meet me. She warned that changing a birth certificate was tough but possible, with proof of coercion or fraud. Those texts were a start, but I needed more. Maybe bank records or Miriam's correspondence. Caleb noticed my shift. "You're quiet lately," he said one night, eyeing me over dinner. I forced a smile, my stomach churning. "Just tired," I lied. He didn't push, but his gaze lingered, like he sensed my defiance growing. I started hiding my research, clearing my browser history, keeping Sadie's number under a fake name. Every step felt like walking a tightrope. One slip, and Caleb would know I was building a case. Sadie pushed me to keep digging. She came over when Caleb was out, helping me search public records for trusts under Evelyn's name. We found nothing concrete, but her presence kept me grounded. "You're not alone," she said, squeezing my hand. That night, I looked at Lydia, sleeping peacefully. I wasn't just fighting for her name anymore. I was fighting for her future, free from Caleb's secrets and Miriam's grip. The lawyers' meeting was set for next week. I had the texts, the note, and a growing file of questions, but Caleb's late nights were increasing, and Miriam called more often, her voice sharp through the phone. I didn't know how deep their plan went, but I was ready to find out. My passivity was gone. Justice wasn't just a hope. It was my weapon. The lawyer's office was a small, cluttered space, but Miss Torres's sharp eyes gave me courage, armed with Caleb's texts, the note, and Sadie's encouragement. I was ready to fight. Miss Torres laid out the plan: file a petition to amend Lydia's birth certificate, citing fraud. The trust fund tied to Evelyn was our leverage. Proof Caleb's motives weren't parental, but financial. But I needed more than screenshots. I needed Caleb to admit it. I set a trap. That night, I left Lydia with Sadie and waited for Caleb at home. When he walked in, I held up the birth certificate, my voice steady. "Why, Evelyn, Caleb? What's the trust fund?" His face paled, but he recovered fast, scoffing. "You're paranoid." "Nora," I pressed, quoting Miriam's texts. His eyes widened, then narrowed. "You went through my phone?" That's when the deep layer reveal hit. Caleb slumped, voice low. "It wasn't just Mom. Evelyn's trust, Grandma's estate, requires a namesake. Mom's been broke since Dad left. She pushed me to do it for her cut. Miriam wasn't the mastermind, she was desperate, manipulating Caleb to secure her own future. He'd gone along, not for Lydia, but to avoid his mother's wrath. I felt a flicker of pity, but it burned out fast. He'd still betrayed us. I didn't yell. I told him I'd filed a legal petition to change Lydia's name and had evidence of his fraud. "You can fight me in court," I said, "but you'll lose." Caleb's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. He knew I had him. Text, the note, and a lawyer who didn't bluff. I walked away, heart pounding, and called Ms. Torres to confirm the filing. The court date came fast. Sadie sat beside me as I presented the evidence. Caleb showed up, alone. Miriam didn't dare appear. The judge was brisk but fair. She ruled in my favor. Lydia's name was changed to Lydia Faye Thornton, keeping the middle name as a nod to peace I no longer cared about. The trust fund was irrelevant. Caleb's fraud nullified his claim. He didn't contest it. His silence louder than any apology. Afterward, I moved out, renting a small place with Sadie's help. Caleb tried calling, leaving voicemails about working things out, but I didn't answer. Justice wasn't just Lydia's name. It was reclaiming my life. I reported the trust fund scheme to the estate's executor, ensuring Miriam faced scrutiny. Active revenge felt cold, deliberate, right. I wasn't destroying Caleb, but I wasn't letting him control me anymore. Lydia's first birthday was last week. I sang to her, my Lydia, in our new home, free of Caleb's shadow. Sadie brought balloons, and Ms. Torres sent a card. I don't know if Caleb will change, or if Miriam will ever face me. I don't care. Lydia's name is hers, and my voice is mine. I fought for both, and I won.